Good morning. Very excited to talk about today's topic, focus on the relationship between light and love. I've mentioned before the phrase from the Bible, a very mystical expression that says, when thine eye becomes single, thy whole body will be filled with light. Part of my research when I was young, I was very interested in science. That was my physics and math were sort of my background when I was strong in university. Anyway, so I was always very interested in science, and Albert Einstein had been one of my heroes as a young man, and so I knew a lot about his life, but it was also his contribution to physics that had to do with understanding the relationship between light and the universe. And what he basically showed, and what I came to understand very clearly, was that light is literally the membrane between the space-time world and the timeless realm. This is why everyone, when they drop their body, they always experience this energetic reality of light. They pass through this membrane of light as their consciousness leaves the identification with the body and the person and moves into the cosmic consciousness, the timeless realm. So, light is literally the membrane between heaven and earth. Okay, and so this is why throughout time, there's always been references to light in regards to like a new idea or genius or the process of awakening or illumination, in enlightenment. So it's very important for us to understand our relationship with light and how literally light and love can be shown to be more or less the same thing. Okay, so I've often used especially when I would talk with a young person or a relatively new someone relatively young in their process of spiritual awakening, that our function that I talk about endlessly about being the conduit, the portal between heaven and earth, our function is much like the function of a green plant, a leaf on a tree, a blade of grass, or whatever. All green plants serve as a translator of energy from the sun into oxygen, water, and food. So literally green plants do for our earth. They're the ones that make life possible. I mean, the sun shines on Mars and the moon and all the other planets and all that. But without green plants on those planets to do this magical alchemy, this translation, this transmutation of the sun's energy into these elements of life, there's no life. So however it happened here on Earth, that green plants evolved and life, the fish, the animals, the birds, us, everything evolved out of that. So it's very important to understand that process of physical evolution, but equally important to understand the process of our spiritual evolution, that our function is dependent on our relationship with this divine light. Okay. And I would say that as we translate or transmute this energy from our spiritual source, Eckhart Tolle called the unmanifested, what many call God, that we receive this energy from the energetic principle of the universe, and we translate or transmute it into, generally I always talk about creativity, enthusiasm, but love, you could say that love, see, love is just a complicated word because many people have very confusing ideas about love. So what I want to talk about today is to look at our basic transmutation as transmuting this light into love, and then a variety of ways that love could be useful in the world would be things like compassion, care, creativity, enthusiasm. It's like, but it's not love the way we think of love as like a commodity, like romantic love. In fact, one of the basic problems of our world, of our species at the tribal and egoic levels, is that they mistakenly see love as something in the world that they need to seek and find, when in fact, when we become awake, enlightened, aware, we see that love is actually not of the world at all, but it's from the divine source, and we can give it as a gift, that our job is to express love in a variety of forms in this world. So instead of seeking it, because people who are seeking love in the world will never actually find it, and I know from my experience, I mean, I've had probably at least 20 pretty powerful encounters with romantic love as a possibility, but always it's not real. It's something, and what I came to realize after a while, I was very good at falling in love, but I was very good at falling in love because I was creating the love. I was expressing the love. I was manufacturing it and introducing it, and just mistakenly believing, oh, as a projection, that it was this other special person that was responsible for the feelings that I was having, when in fact, it wasn't this other person at all. It was always me. Because I always remembered times when I would move on from a relationship and I would have this feeling of freedom, this feeling of lightness, like, wow, like I still have the love because the love's in me. I didn't lose the love because this other person or I decided to end the relationship. So always that was the mistake. And this is one of the big parts of A Course in Miracles, is teaching about special love and special hate, that the kind of love that we mistakenly believe is in the world is, again, our basic denial of our own divinity, okay? So this is, again, part of the egoic conundrum, is that ego will first deny and then project. So we deny our divinity, we deny our essential nature of love, and then we project it onto someone else, mommy, daddy, heroes, partners, children. We see them as the source of love mistakenly, when in fact we are the source, or the source uses us as its expression. So big shift for us when we move away from special love and we see love in its true sense, that we have this relationship, energetic relationship with God, with the divine source, with the energetic principle of the universe. And our relationship with this source is what brings this energetic reality into us, our energy body, and then we translate it, we give it as a gift to the world. So again, like we talked about before, last time, in forgiveness, that we come to know the world as a place for giving to instead of forgetting from, and especially this relates to love. So we will come to find great satisfaction, deep comfort in this knowing that we are this radiant, walking emissary of love in our world, and we can express it in a variety of ways. And I think, again, why the reason Eckhart Tolle and other teachers point people towards nature first is that it's a really, really good place to practice this love. to sit in a beautiful place and feel this radiant love. It's the essential relationship that we have with nature, with rocks, with trees, with sunsets, with water. We have this deep loving relationship with nature. And so in the beginning, as we're learning about love, we might think again that nature is giving us the sense of love and comfort and beauty and all that. But in fact, we have it in us, and we can very easily experience it in relationship with nature, because nature is not going to complicate it. It's not like having this relationship of love with another person where there can be complications, because it's like, wow, I'm really giving this beautiful gift of love, but this other person is not receiving it properly or not returning it properly. And so we get confused. And so this is, again, part of that early part of our development where we're continually disappointed because we're not receiving back what we think we should, which is, reciprocal to what we're giving. So it's very key, and this is why most teachings like the Tao Te Ching and others that I've been very close to, the essential teaching is that we will learn and practice our elemental function in solitude. First, we can perfect it in solitude, and then eventually, as a more higher level of mastery, bring it into the busyness of the world, bring it into relationships that might seem otherwise very challenging. Because the key, again, is to become so clear that we are the source, and there's no other. The rest of the world around us simply exists as a place, as a template. Remember, I talked about that before, about time and space are these templates into which I express, into which I give. And of course, I mean now as Sun King, the name of my energy body, the way in which we express is by receiving, again, with the energy body, and then translating through our variety of our chakras, our energy centers in our energy body, with compassion, with creativity, with sort of divine knowledge, spiritual love. This is what we are. We are, each of us masters in training to be the translators of light. Remember, we're receiving the energy as light and then transforming it into love, into different varieties of love that humans can understand and appreciate. There's been some humans, including myself, that can fully appreciate the quality of love at its source, which is divinity. But most humans have difficulty with that. So divinity is asking us to translate it, to dumb it down so that others can understand it. So for an example, an easy way in which I can do this translation is with my daughter. And she can easily understand and accept because I'm her daddy, right? So a parent has a profound ability to express love to a child because that child sees the parent as, at some level, as this divine source. And it's true. I mean, we are. So the trick eventually is to be able to do the same translation with relationships that are more entangled, I would say, like with my siblings. I don't have nearly as easy a time with my partner, Kati. Easier than my siblings, but not as easy as Amelie. So again, our challenge as we develop in mastery is to bring this energy equally to any situation, to any part of our world. And again, the way we would sort of define this expression of love would be a little bit different. Say if you're dealing with a creature that is at some level of suffering. I could say that about my siblings, for example. They're at a certain level of suffering that makes it impossible for us to have sort of an equal, open, loving relationship. So maybe the best I can do is through compassion, which would be, again, love tempered with understanding. Okay, understanding the plight of most humans who are in great denial of their own divinity, and because of that, in great suffering, to offer love in the form of acceptance and compassion. Like, it's okay. It's okay, they're as they are, and the best thing I can do is do no harm, not exchange malice with them if they might want to point malice toward me. My mom was recently just saying in a conversation with my eldest sister that she doesn't choose to have a relationship with me because of my crazy conspiracy theory ideas. It's like, okay, because of her mental constriction, she chooses not to have a relationship with her brother because my politics differs from hers quite a bit. So, I have to just take that into my heart and go, well, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I grew up in a family where it was much more easy for people to disown each other than love each other. So accept and again, our goal in the world is not to change the world, but to simply give where we can give, give in the highest forms we can give. And so again, practicing in solitude, practicing in nature, it's a very, very, very high level of this expression is what I would call adoration, that we can adore. We have the capacity to adore, which is a very high level of love. It would be very similar. I would say adoration and enthusiasm are very similar, probably in the same ballpark of vibration that David Hawkins would put it. 700 to 800 in this level, which is much higher than human love, which compassion. Those would vibrate more in the 550 to 600 realm. So a very high level of expression is adoration and also enthusiasm. And so we can find areas in our world where this level of expression is acceptable. It can be received. And nature obviously is a clear example. Nature can easily be adored and at some level reflect back that adoration to us because, we are part of nature. We are equally adorable, as is these aspects of nature that are so beautiful, a flower, a sunset, a hummingbird, or whatever. There's so much about it, a little kitten. We have little babies. I got some ducks yesterday, some little baby ducks, and maybe you can hear them in the background chirping. Little baby animals are all so adorable. We can adore them. Sometimes as animals grow up, they're not as adorable as they were when they're babies, but all babies are adorable. So finding our way to practice, and as we continue in our development of our mastery, we want to spend as much time as possible in the highest levels of our expression. And then we take some time and go into more challenging arenas. And again, it's practice. It's practice. It's, again, one of my favorite books, Durkheim's Transformation, just says, daily, hold on, I gotta look at it. Yeah, daily life as spiritual practice. So, that's the best we can do, is simply seeing our daily life as spiritual practice. So what essentially that means is daily life as our way of translating this energy of light, which we can receive. And you could do a meditation, do whatever. But this is partly why I would even personally choose the sun as a metaphor. Just like the energy of the sun feeds our physical world with life, the same energy of the divine is easily represented, at least in my mind, as the sun. So if I sit in the morning and appreciate the early morning sun, and I just let that sun warm me, but it's also sort of feeding me, because I'm looking at that as a symbolic representation of this divine energy, which is light. Okay, so you could meditate on a candle, whatever, but it's very important to understand our relationship with light energy. Okay, like I say, light is the portal between the timeless realm and the space-time world. So we can literally focus our attention on light. When thine eye becomes single, thy whole body is filled with light. Receiving the light, receiving the energetic principle of, well, again, like I say, light, and then say, okay, receive the light, transmute it, express it as love. Okay, and so I would call creativity love, compassion is love, enthusiasm is love. It's all divine love being expressed. So that would be the lesson for today, seeing light and love as the same thing. The relationship, again, there's the Trinity, which is the source, us as translator, and then the world. So, our function is fundamental. It's essential that we realize how important, how necessary we are in the expression fully of this, again, the unity, the oneness of the universe needs us, okay, as translators into duality. So we have the unity, we have the energetic expression, we have the duality of the world. This comes together in the perfect Trinity, things become whole. So with that, for my blessing, my genuine love for you and your willingness to step forward with me in our function, life is good.